Welcome to the Town of Kingston Committee Decision Day number 1. To start off, we will say the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So just so everyone understands, this is the 2024 public hearing for the Town of Kingston Municipal Budget Committee to review and make recommendations on the proposed 2024 operating budget and the revenue attached to the budget. This will also stand as the Budget Committee's regular meeting. So after the public hearing, the Budget Committee is requested to stay, and we will do our normal business. I am Stacy Dion. I'm the Kingston's Budget Committee's secretary. Trish Tidd, who is the chair, could not be here today, so she asked me to run this meeting. So I'd like to introduce the Budget Committee. We have the Vice Chair, Rick Russman, Claudine Diaz, Gary Finity, Kim Donahue, Anne-Marie Roth, John Pramberg, and Nick Hilfer. The Select Board is here. Chris Bashaw.
I'm Chris Bashaw. I'm the current chairman of the Board of Selectmen. To my right, I have Glenn Koppelman, Select Board member, Ellie Alessio, Select Board member, Lori Swed, Select Board member, and we also have Paula Mahoney, our finance director, up here.
So Chuck Hart, who is the Budget Committee liaison, is not in attendance. So Ellie Alessio will be the acting liaison as part of the quorum for the Budget Committee.
And Chuck sincerely apologizes for not being here. He's been having some very difficult post-surgery recovery issues, but he is, I know, set up watching at home.
I'd like to thank the Select Board and the Budget Committee for all of their hard work this year. I would also like to thank Paula for all of her work in getting all the numbers entered and getting us all the information we need to do all the work. I would also like to thank all the department heads and all the committee chairs. They did a fantastic job of keeping their budgets as low as possible this year. It made the Budget Committee's job a little easier with some of the increases that weren't as high or as crazy as we have seen in the other years. So I'd also like to thank a group, the Wage Matrix Working Group. They actually have been working on getting together the pay matrix for the town that has eliminated the pay per performance in this year's budget. It will also be implemented hopefully for the fire department this year and the police, and they will continue to work for all other departments moving forward next year.
I can share mine.
Okay, sorry.
Is a little different. I will read for line by line from the beginning to the end. As we read it, any member of the Budget Committee can call out a buy, which will hold that item until we read the entire budget of that department or that area. Once we read that entire budget and we have our buys, we will then discuss any items that we choose to discuss, and then we will vote to adjust the number or stay at where it was in the budget. Once that's done, we will vote on the department or committee's budget as a whole. The Budget Committee will take a vote, and then the Select Board will take a vote. Can you repeat that, please?
Will there be a vote at the end on the entire package?
There will be a vote at the end of the entire package. So it will be individual line items and then the final number once we have our final number. I also want to introduce Cindy McCauley. She is our budget secretary. Okay, so just want to talk about what the budget committee has gone through in this since November. So we have been meeting in November, and we've met as a team. We've also, each budget member has had 2 departments where they liaison. They have worked with the departments to try to adjust any numbers to get us within a budget that is our goals. We were trying to keep the budget as low as an increase as possible, but our actual budget will be up almost 20% this year. As much as that number seems scary to a lot of us, the operating budget will be lower than the current default budget. Some of those reasons are due to contractual obligations that are coming into effect, so those increases will hit the operating budget as well as the default budget. Another one of those reasons is our health insurance for the town has increased dramatically. That also would hit the default budget. If you add up some of the contractual obligations and some of the health insurance, you get to about $1.3 million, which is almost the entire increase of the operational budget from 2023 to 2024. The good news to that is that some of these numbers are required for us to get grant money back from either federal or state. 2 of these programs are for the point of use wells that are required for the PFAS remediation. That total amount of money is $288,000. Due to us being a municipal budget, we need to appropriate that in our budget in order for the revenue to offset it. So even though it is in an operational budget, we will get reimbursed for that money. So it becomes not a tax burden, but a necessary requirement for the operational budget so that we can spend it. This also occurs with the highway block grant. We have $210,000 in the budget for that, for the highway block grant. Last year, we budgeted 210, we got 250,000 back from the state. So that will offset in revenue once the end of this year occurs. One thing I want to point out in the budget is we are putting in about $43,000 for the fire department in order for the fire department to have available wages that are competitive to the surrounding towns so that we can make sure we have a full staff in our fire department. Currently, our budget is $9,500,996,501, and our default is $9,679,394. We're at $82,000 higher in the default than we are in the budget. All right. Are there any questions?
No, I just, when you look at the increase, a large that about $63,000 of it comes just from increase ability, unemployment, no control. So this is a trickle down from federal and state issues that are going on that hit home right in our wallets and our tax bills. But unfortunately, dollars are all increases that are completely out of our control, and we have really no opportunity to have any say in that. And then, as Stacy had mentioned, we do have that for the PFAS remediation, which is getting clean drinking water for the homes that were contaminated by the foam that was used by fire departments all over the state, because they told us it was safe and the greatest thing, and it will probably never hurt you. But we've contaminated those wells, and we have a mandated obligation to fix that for those homeowners to make sure they have clean water coming out of their taps.
Good. All right, let's get started. We're going to start with the executive budget, item number 4130. Salaries for select men, $22,100. Salaries full-time, $223,870. Salaries part-time, $10,000. Salaries overtime, $1. Salaries COLA, $7,016.13. Ads classified, $700. Books, $200. Computer maintenance, $90,443.32. Computer software user fees, $9,780. Computer training, $1. Computer upgrade, $3,500. Consulting outside service, $500. Contracted services, $347,804.75. Dues, $7,200. Equipment maintenance contracts, $2,800. Equipment supplies, equipment repairs, $1. Equipment supplies, $1. Forms and envelopes.
Stacy, the computer, the computer software, I don't know why they're, what printed and that is 7,500, I don't know. Yeah.
Isn't she working off of the sheet?
No, we're looking at,
An equipment maintenance contract, I want to get 3,300.
which is
Okay.
the yellow one, which is this one.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
This is what was mailed last night.
I don't know how that changed, because I just printed it all at the same time.
Okay. Which one? Yep, I'm
This is-
using,
04 June.
I'm showing on, this one is the actual official one that I got from Paula this morning,
Yeah,
so.
and I haven't changed it, so I don't know why. That, it should be 9, I don't know how it printed as 7.
Okay.
The 9, 6,000 plus 3, it should be 97.
Yep. So
Yeah, when I sent it to you, I printed it all at the same time. I
okay,
don't know how it.
but yours, the one that I'm working on your computer.
9780 is right.
So printed ones are not right.
For that number. Well, I don't know
Well,
why.
I've got a discrepancy on the equipment maintenance contract from the copy that was emailed yesterday.
So, wait, so I'm looking at the one you sent me, because I'm working off of your computer.
That is the right number.
Okay, and the one that you sent us on Thursday is
I don't know how it's
matching the paper.
Yeah, I don't know how it's different. Because I haven't changed anything.
Well, that's gonna happen. Those things are gonna happen when you're dealing with 2 or 3 different sources of information. So all of us have got to deal with the same thing with everything else environment.
Can you hit your mic?
Hit your mic button.
So do we need to print off? We gotta print off new ones.
Can you hit print on that? I apologize, I don't know how it happened.
And Paula, this is, just for clarification, this, if we're working off of this one, it says 2023 budget proposal.
It says up there
So the one that you sent us on Thursday,
too. Yeah, that is this.
and so, John, just so you understand, the one that's up there right now and the one I'm reading off of is Paula's original budget. So I just printed, that is the one that is the official budget.
I don't know how.
So I just printed this copy.
How many?
I printed one, but I need to print more.
Make
I
sure
know.
you hit double, it doesn't default to double sided, so.
There's your issue right there. That's what's going on, but I don't want to get into that. As to what the source of the problem is, but we got a deal from the same piece
Yep.
of paper. I know the technology is
No disagreements in that, John.
We're printing copies.
This is budget committee, because it shouldn't, that's not the right.
That's the one that you gave me. I would be dealing with mine, but mine.
We're okay, it's good.
We do.
Spreadsheet was open. So the wrong spreadsheet was open.
Okay. So we are going to start over with the correct one.
Yeah.
You have the right printed one. That is the one that was sent out. This is the one. Okay. Great.
I apologize. I sent the right one.
It's okay. I just want to make sure that we're reading the right one and that we're voting on the right one. All right. Salaries, selectmen, 22,100. Salaries, full-time, 223,870. Salaries, part-time, 10,000. Salaries, overtime, $1. Salaries, COLA, 7,016.13.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, there's a buy on the salaries COLA. Ads classified, 700. Books, 200. Computer maintenance, $90,443.32. Computer software user fees, $7,500. Computer training, $1. Computer upgrade, $3,500. Consulting and outside services, $500. Contracted services, $347,804.75. Dues, $7,200. Equipment maintenance contracts, $3,300. Equipment repairs, $1. Equipment supplies, $1. Forms and envelopes, $1,500. Info printing and mailing, $1. Legal ads, $500. Mileage and meals, $2,000. Penalties, $1. Postage, $15,000.
I've got 100 for penalties.
Penalties was 100.
Penalties are 100. Postage is 15,000. It is a lot of numbers.
A lot of zeros.
It's, yeah, it's my eye test for the year. Recording fees, 150. Seminars and training, 1,000. Solid waste task force, 2,000. Supplies, 5,000. Tax map updates, 5,000. Tax maps for sale, $1. Telephone and internet, $9,482.40. Town cable operations, 5,000. Town reports, 1,500. All right, so we had a buy for salaries and COLA.
So I just had a question about this line, and maybe I missed it along the way. I had thought COLA was being lowered to offset the 40,000 that was being given to fire, so that there was some point I heard it talked about that it was going to be lowered to like 3.2 to cover that, and this is 4%. So is the decision?
So we had a discussion at one of the last meetings of that the COLA has been at 4% for the last 2 years, and that the select board's recommendation was to keep it at 4% because last year, even though inflation was at 8%, they gave a COLA at 4%, and even though this year the rate is 3.2% for Medicare, Social Security increase is 3.2%, that they would like to keep it at 4% to make up for some of the COLA increases that haven't been to the full amount percentage that Medicare was at, Social Security.
So in the past 3 years, COLA.
You need to please put.
So in the past 3 years, COLA was at 4%, which means a 12% increase in earnings for the townspeople, for the employees of the town. I don't know any people in the private sector paying the taxes who got 12% increases in earnings.
And I will say, what I brought up to, when this was brought up before, is that when the town was at 4%, the previous 2 years, I believe the Social Security was at 5.7, or it was at 8.9, and the year before that it was at 5.7, and the town was only at 4% for those years. So this year it's at 3.2, and we recommended that the town stay at 4% to balance that out. So if you looked at the 3 past years for Social Security COLA increase, it's greater than 12%.
I guess why I'm asking the question is I just thought we were offsetting the 40,000 with fire somewhat. I mean, I'm totally supportive of getting fire where they belong, so I don't want that to be misconstrued. It's just I thought we were looking other ways to fund it when we had certain departments that were in that 95 percentile. That's where I'm struggling.
I think the rationale was by eliminating pay per performance. Cost of living is still cost of living. Everyone's cost of living is obviously going up. So we wanted to keep their salaries in line with that, but people are getting eliminated pay per performance to have appropriate salary matrices implemented. But I wouldn't want to support a living increase.
I'm not saying strike it. That's not what I'm saying. But
To help offset the fire, we got rid of the fire's COLA.
Yeah.
So that's what we had discussed at the last meeting.
So we eliminated the COLA of $26,000 for the fire department so that we would bring up their salary for all of their employees. Fire did not get the COLA, they got the implementation of the pay matrix.
What were the savings by giving up COLA from the fire department and going to the alternative method of compensation?
The savings?
Yeah.
So we eliminated $26,000 in COLA,
Right.
and we're increasing their salary by $43,000. So there's no savings.
So the cost is 17 grand. Okay.
It's costing us $17,000 to bring up the fire department to a salary that is more competitive with the area to keep employees.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion to accept the executive budget as stated.
On the, we just taking it on the one item?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Second is Gary. We're just talking, we didn't, we're just talking about the COLA. So there's a motion to leave the $7,016.13 as is, and there is a second.
So if we're gonna leave it alone, why don't we just leave it and then vote the whole budget? That'll save time, right?
Because
I
there
was-
was a buy, oh, sorry.
Yep.
Because
There was a buy,
Oh,
so there was a discussion, so we need to agree or disagree with the buy and take a vote on it. All in favor of leaving the budget at $7,016.13?
Aye.
Please raise your hand. Okay, so that is 6.
Nick,
Yep. Okay, all not in favor of 2. Motion passes to leave the item to $7,016.13. The executive budget number 4130 for a total of $772,372.60. I motion for this to be approved in the 2024 budget.
second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Are you abstaining?
I'm thinking, because I can't vote no on a line item and vote yes on the overall budget, right? So I guess I have to vote no.
It is really up to you.
I guess I'll vote no.
2 opposed. Executive budget passes.
Do you want us to do our motion
Yes.
to recommend?
Yep. Passes by the,
So we would need to take a motion to recommend the proposed executive portion of the budget for $772,372.60. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? 4-0.
all right. We're moving on to election and registration. There is a significant increase in this budget this year due to 4 upcoming elections. This also is a requirement to increase this in the default budget due to requirement to hold 4 elections this year. Supervisor of the checklist clerical, 0. Supervisor of the checklist supplies, 100. Salaries, supervisor of the checklist, 1,200. Election salaries, part-time, 4,600. Election food, 2,500. Election police detail, 3,025. Moderator, 400. Shredding, $250. Tabulator, 14,000. Election grant expense, 0. Election mileage and meals, 50. Election printing, 5,000. Election programming, $5,300. Election supplies, $800. Election and registration for a total of $37,225.
Motion to accept.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the at that election and registration approval, all those in favor, sorry. Opposed? This motion passes.
Okay, the select board would need a motion to recommend the proposed budget for election and registration of $37,225.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye.
The election and registration budget of $37,225 passes. Financial administration. Assessing, $64,100. And audit, $16,000. These are budget committee salaries, $773. COLA, $30.92. Committee books, $30. Budget committee supplies, $100. Budget committee legal ads, $300. Budget committee meals and miles, $300. Budget committee seminars, $200. Total for budget committee, $1,733.92. I'm gonna
Move approval.
second.
Second.
Yep, Rick's got the second. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay.
Okay,
Select board?
Select board would need a motion to recommend the approved budget committee budget of $1,733.92.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Town clerk. Salary, $82,604.28. Town clerk salary full-time, $143,700. Overtime, $500. Salary part-time, $0. Salary COLA, $9,024. Boat launch keys, $400. Computer maintenance, $4,700. Computer supplies, $400. Computer upgrades, $2,000. Consulting service deeds, $2,500. Dog tags, $550. Dues, $200. Equipment contracts, $500. Forms and envelopes, $2,200. Mileage and meals, $500. Office equipment, $100. Recording fees, $500. Seminars and training, $2,000. Supplies, $500. Shredding, $250. Record restoration, $3,000. Town clerk total, $256,128.88.
28 cents.
28 cents.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? All those in favor for approval? Opposed? Motion passes
Select-
8-1.
Select Board would need a motion to recommend the amount of $256,128.28. All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous.
Treasurer's salary, $7,800. Trustees of the trust fund salary, $1,875. Trustees of the trust fund bookkeeping, $2,200. Total for financial administration, $349,837.20. Motion?
Motion to approve.
Second? All those in favor? Opposed? Select Board?
Yeah, so the Select Board would need a motion to recommend the total for financial administration of $349,000, $837, let me start that over. $349,837.20. All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous.
Legal expense, $45,000. There a motion for approval? It's on a line on its own.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? You're abstaining? Okay, so motion passes.
Select Board need a motion to recommend the legal expense line proposed of $45,000.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Yeah, we have a lot of stuff on the burner too. Yeah.
All right. Item number 4155, personal administration. Criminal record check, $800. Dental insurance, $93,074.16. Disability insurance, $34,000. Health and life insurance, $859,344.62. Medicare, $60,000. Pay per performance, $7,992.90. These are contractually obligated pay per performance. Retirement, $720,000. Social Security, $245,000. Wage salary adjustment, 0. Unemployment insurance, $3,062. Workman's compensation insurance, $85,928. Total for personal administration is $2,109,202.68. Motion for approval.
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions, none. Motion passes. Select Board.
Need a motion to recommend the Personnel Administration final number of $109,202.68. All those in favor? Aye.
All right. Next item, Planning and Zoning. Planning salaries part-time, $39,045.20. COLA, $1,263.60. Books, 200. Contracted services, 2,500. Copier maintenance, 0. Consulting engineering, 2,500. Forms and envelopes, $1. Legal ads, 2,500. Matching grants, 2,500. Mileage, 150. Office equipment, $1,020. Planner, $46,271.72. Postage, $1. Recording fees, $900. Seminars and training, $600. Supplies, $400. Test pit soil science, $500. Computer upgrade and maintenance, $1. MS 365, 0. Total budget for the planning, $100,353.52.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Motion passes. Opposed? Motion passes. Approval of the budget.
All right, the Select Board, I would take a motion to recommend the Planning Board budget of $100,353.52.
So moved.
Lori, all those in favor? Aye.
Zoning Board. Salaries, $4,505. Salaries COLA, $180.20. Books, $60. Legal ads, $1,500. Zoning Board seminars and training, $675. Zoning Board supply, 0. For a total of $6,320.20. Second.
Second.
All those in favor? You're going to abstain? Okay. So any one abstain? No.
Opposed.
Oh, no opposed? Opposed? Okay.
All right, Select Board, I would take a motion to approve the Zoning Board of Adjustment line of $6,320.20. Ellie, Glenn, all those in favor? Aye.
Historic District Commission. Salaries, $1,000. Salaries COLA, $16.83. Abutter notices, $150. Books, $1. Dues, $60. Grant match, $1. Legal aids, $125. sorry, ads. You try doing this. Woo. Supplies, 200. Technical consulting, $1. Training, $1, for a total of $1,555.83.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? No? All right. Abstain?
All right, Select Board would be looking for a motion to recommend the Historic District Committee subtotal of $1,555.83.
So moved.
Glenn? Ellie? All those in favor? Aye.
Motion passes. Planning and zoning has a total of $108,229.55. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
Second? Oh, yeah, it's all of them added together, but we have to vote on. Second? All those in favor? You're gonna abstain. Opposed? Abstain? 2.
Okay, I would take a recommendation from the Planning Board to recommend the total for planning and zoning, Select Board, yeah, them too, of $108,229.55.
So moved.
All right,
I'll take that.
yeah. All right. The zoning and, planning and zoning passes. Government buildings, budget item 4194, salaries full-time, $122,116.80. Salaries overtime, $3,664. Salaries COLA, $3,701.73. Air quality testing, $2,200. Capital equipment, $6,000. Capital improvement, $40,000. Equipment maintenance, $7,500. Equipment rental, $3,000. Fertilizer, $6,000. Fire equipment, $2,000. Fixture repair, $5,000. Flags, $1,800. Fuel tank maintenance, $1. Hardware and tools, $6,000. Heat and service, $27,000. Landscaping, $1,500. Lift maintenance, $1,500. Lumber and supplies, $1,800. Membership fees, $1. Monitoring, $7,300. Organic land care, $2,500. Painting, $2,750. Paper and cleaning supplies, $6,500. Park maintenance, $4,000. Porta potty, $5,000. Safety equipment and uniforms, $1,600. Seminars and training, $1,000. septic, 4,000, telephone and internet, $469.08, tree maintenance, 1,200, utilities, electrical, 25,000, water cooler rentals, 2,400, water testing, 500, total for government buildings, $305,003.61. Motion for approval,
So moved.
second. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Select board?
All right, the select board would take a motion to recommend the government buildings amount of $305,003.61.
So moved.
Glenn, Ellie, all those in favor? Aye.
Passes. Item number 4195, cemeteries, salaries part-time, $1. Millstream salaries part-time, $1. Salaries COLA, $1. Contracted services, $12,000. Equipment maintenance, $1,000. Flowers, $50. Improvement, $1,000. Mileage and meals, $1. Seminars and training, $200. Stone repairs, $1,000. Supplies, $500. Millstream contracted services, $6,000. Millstream equipment maintenance, $250. Millstream expenses, $500. Millstream flowers, $500. Millstream improvements, $1,500. Millstream mileage and meals, $1. Millstream stone repairs, $200. Millstream supplies, $100, for a total of $24,805. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? You're abstaining, correct?
Yeah, you're going to abstain now.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right, the select board would take a motion to recommend the cemetery's proposed budget of $24,805.
So moved.
Glenn? Lori? All those in favor? Aye.
All right. Item number 4196, insurance. Liability, $82,287. Deductible, $5,500, for a total of $87,787. Motion.
So moved.
Second. You'll do second? Second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Anne Marie and Claudine. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions?
Select board would need a motion to recommend the cemeteries, or I'm sorry, the insurance total of $87,787. Lori?
Second.
Glenn? All those in favor? Aye.
Regional Association dues. $6,400. The only item on there. Motion,
So moved.
second.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions?
Okay, select board would need a motion to recommend the regional association dues line of $6,400.
So moved.
Glenn? Ellie? All those in favor? Aye.
Yeah. Item number 4199, other general government. Cable channel and social media salary, $5,000. Contingency fund, $50,000. Gasoline, $90,000. Physicals, $4,500. For a total of $149,500.
Motion to approve.
Motion for. Is there a second? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions?
All right, select board would take a motion to recommend the other general government line item of total of $149,500.
So moved.
Glenn? Ellie? All those in favor? Aye.
I would just like to take a 3-minute break. If that is okay, because so we're just going to take a brief 5-minute break. Thank you. Oh my God. All right. We are back to the public hearing. Thank you for a few minutes. We are going to start with item number 4210, the police department. Salaries full-time, $675,792. Salaries overtime, $14,300. Salaries overtime court, $7,500. Active training seminars,
Just one comment, that should read active shooter training seminars.
Yeah.
Active, it's,
Hold on, active,
yeah, line 4210-23 should read active shooter training seminars.
I'd like a buy on that one.
by,
Just a comment, okay, the number looks right.
and there's a by. Salaries quarterly staff meeting, $1,800. Salaries full-time seminars and training, $16,887. Salaries part-time seminars and training, $10,000. Salaries part-time officers, $60,000. Salaries overtime grant money, $0. Salaries secretary, $60,320. Salary secretary part-time, $1. Salaries COLA, $23,090.54. Ammunition, $9,175. Books, $500. Capital equipment, $5,000.
Buy.
Buy. Computer, $11,864.
Buy.
Cruiser maintenance, $25,000. Cruiser replacement, $61,550. Dues, $675. Electrical, $8,500. Equipment supplies, $1,525. Equipment maintenance, $1,500. Forms and envelopes, $1,200. Heat, $4,000. Intoximeter supplies, $1. Mileage and meals, $500. Photo, $1,200. Prosecutor, $37,000. Radio maintenance, $4,000. Seminars and training, $5,625. Supplies, $4,000. Surplus equipment, $1. Telephone and internet, $6,500. Uniforms, $16,850. Other, $0. All right. We have a buy. Our first buy is at item number 421023, active shooter training seminars for $6,500.
So we had this conversation around what the detail fund is utilized for. Oh, And I just don't know that we ever got a concrete answer on that. We had talked about possibly using that fund for this versus putting it in the budget. Right. Anyone know where we stand on
I think the
this?
decision was based on, Chief wanted a discrete line item for active shooter training. For the camera business.
So why,
It's on, I don't know if it.
so is there a reason the detail fund can't be utilized to sponsor this training when we have $10,000 in training?
It's my understanding the detail fund is split between the fire department and the police department, so I don't know if the police department. No?
Does anyone know what's in that fund today?
This line item is purely payroll. It is not for training, paying a trainer. It is for paying the officers their pay for when they take the training. That is what this
That's
line item
important
is.
to know, I'm glad to know that, but that should be made clear on the
It's in the payroll section of the budget.
My understanding is that he refused to take it from the detail fund.
Well,
At least 50,000 in the detail fund that could be used.
it's a little bit less. Technically, you're right, Mr. Russman, it could be used for that. However, traditionally, the detail fund has been used to replace cruisers in particular. And not, because that's extra money that comes to the town because of details through utilities and so forth. Now, it's not that that the chief refused to take it, but that's designated for future replacement of vehicles. And this is a payroll issue here.
Well, but we do have.
That, Ellie. Has that fund in the last 2 years been used for anything but cruises?
Yes, it's for cruisers and emergency, I don't want to say emergency, but purchases that are needed that have come up that were not in the budget. That's what that fund is for.
It's been equipment pretty much, John.
The last, what he told us when he was there, that one of the things that he used it for was apparently somebody shot themselves in the foot or something, and the gun was blamed, so they went out and bought new guns out of the detail fund, because somehow the guns weren't
I didn't
safe
get
or
that
something.
story, Rick, I'm sorry.
But, I mean, what he said, that they bought new guns with it. And now, there is, I think, in here, money for new cruisers, I think, in the budget. So is that, how does that add up to, he's gonna take money?
I can speak to that. So what it is that we have to budget for the natural replacement of cruisers. Now, if a cruiser was involved in an accident, say it was rear-ended, T-boned, or it was an at-fault accident, well, the money that you're gonna get from the insurance company, you might get $10,000, $15,000 for that. That's not going to buy a $50,000 cruiser and another $15,000 worth of equipment to outfit that. So what you would need an emergency replacement of a vehicle that you're not funded for, and that's some of the items they have. You are correct, they did use that, but there's a little more to that story for the firearms. That particular firearm is named in, I believe, 80 plus different lawsuits of accidental discharges, and the chief felt it wasn't responsible at the time to continue using that firearm. That has over 80 incidences of discharging on its own and injuring people. Firearm. So that was an emergent situation that wasn't in the budget, and he didn't feel comfortable continuing on with those firearms. But traditionally, it has been used for emergency replacement of stuff that isn't in the budget that can't be funded otherwise in a time-sensitive nature.
The committee, I'm sorry.
To me, what's important is this, because as I heard about this, I insisted on doing some research and went to the state statute, which led me to the referendum. And what's important and what gets clouded in these discussions is that money is not under the control of the fire chief or the police chief. And what the public needs to be clear about, the committee needs to be clear about, is that money is under the control of the selectmen, period. So, where I think we get lost in the weeds sometimes here, we have discussions based on incorrect assumptions. So this is really public money that's under your control. It's completely logical that it be spent on unexpected equipment expenses, whatever, but really the responsibility for this lies with us. And it's also logical to be spent in the public safety area, because public safety is what produced the money originally. And cruises are what produces a lot of that detailed money. But we should all be clear that the selectmen control this.
That is correct. And yeah, the chief of police can't just say, oh, well, I didn't get something in my budget that I wanted, so I'm going to use this money to go get it. Any purchases that come from it have to come before the select board. Also true.
And I'm assuming that's why, when the issue came up with the replacement of the firearms, the request came to us.
So if the detail fund is allocated for risk mitigation, cruiser replacement, for example, should the cruiser replacement line item come out of the budget for this year?
No, because that's for the natural replacement of cruisers that are hitting their end of life cycles. Police vehicle, I know everyone kind of like, oh, you only use vehicles to 100,000 miles, but 100,000 miles on a police vehicle is very different than 100,000 miles on a traditional vehicle. And oftentimes, because they work details and generate other revenue, there could be double the amount of hours on the engine of a normal vehicle that somebody uses with 100,000 miles versus a 100,000 mile police vehicle. But that's part of the natural progression of cycling vehicles out of the fleet that have hit their end of life. Those would be used for a replacement, like I said, in a situation where you get an accident, you've lost a cruiser from the fleet that was unanticipated.
So is there a reason we can't transfer money in to cover the payroll expense from that fund?
There is nothing, well, the budget committee, I don't think, can just transfer that, but.
No, but it could be done, right? There's no reason it has to be a line item. You could take the detail fund to cover the additional expense for the training from a payroll standpoint.
It could be done.
So I just have one question. You mentioned about replacing a cruiser and the insurance would only cover like $10,000, $15,000. I don't want to sound ignorant, but when you buy a vehicle, they're covering the whole car, including the additions to it. So with the cruiser insurance, doesn't that cover like any kind of damage to any of the equipment that's in it?
I can't say whether it should or not, but I can speak from direct experience at the sheriff's office where we had one of our K9 cruisers totaled and we got a check for $17,500 and it cost us over $65,000 to replace that vehicle and all the equipment in it.
Okay, thank you.
So I don't know what should or shouldn't be, but I can tell you from direct experience what I experienced.
Well, I have the same question, and I know that, and it might be different for governmental vehicles, police vehicles, but on personal insurance, you can buy policies that have full replacement coverage, and I don't know if that's an option for, say, our police vehicles. Well, I know that maybe so, and I know that on my personal vehicle, it's not cost prohibitive, but it might very well be on a police vehicle.
And and it could be something as innocuous as when you go from one model year to the next. I know, especially with police cade, they're in the business of making money, so they don't make anything that transitions to the next model year changeover. So they make sure all the specific equipment that we need for those vehicles all has to be purchased brand new and doesn't have a long life cycle for the specialty equipment that gets installed as well.
Can you tell us in the last, say, 5 years, how many cruises we've totaled?
Do you want me to ask?
Sure.
Chief Johnson? No problem. Can you repeat your question?
Right, how many cruises in the last 5 years have been totaled?
How many total?
Yes.
Let's say roughly 2 full and about 3 severely damaged.
So one a year is in an accident every year.
So yeah. We have
It's only January 6th.
Thank you.
call a motion?
You can call a motion.
My motion would be to remove the 6,500 from this line. In 1 second.
Second.
Could
Oh,
I had originally suggested discussion of the motion, splitting taxpayers pay for half. And it's on.
It needs to be closer.
Asking the taxpayers to pay for half and paying half out of the detail fund. Would there be any, I wouldn't want to cut it out completely because I think it's important. But I don't want to confuse things by suggesting an amendment, but I mean, what do you think about going halves on it? Just reducing it by 1/2?
Personally, I mean, I support the idea of doing it. I just support how we're funding it. And if there's 50,000, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, sitting in the detail fund, I think there's ample money to cover it elsewhere. So I personally don't support it being in the budget at all. My humble opinion.
so then my question would be, is there a second to amend?
Second.
Rick, seconding. So I have 2 amendments. One, the way he amended.
He asked a question, I didn't know he made the motion.
Kim will not. So my question was, is he making a motion to amend the original motion?
Okay, now we have 2 amendments on the floor, we have to vote on the amendment first and then vote on the main motion.
Yep.
Which is cutting,
Yep.
eliminating $6,500.
Yep. Do we,
Point of
so,
order, was that a motion, or was that, are you raising a question?
is that,
It was a question, and if somebody agrees with this sentiment I expressed, I suggest they make a motion and I'll
Okay.
second it.
So he's saying he didn't make a motion.
Okay, there's only one motion on the floor, that's
so is,
65.
right, is there any agreement with cutting it instead of eliminating it?
You should probably vote on the motion, and then you can have another motion if you want
Yep.
to state something.
All right.
That's the right way to go.
So, all in favor of removing the salaries for the active shooter training seminars? 4. All opposed?
Motion fails.
Gary,
I was for.
you were 4? So, motion fails 5-4 to remove the active shooting training.
Failed?
Yeah, 4, and 5 opposed. It means it's gonna stay as 6,500.
For removing it?
Oh, okay, sorry. 5-4, it passes, sorry. All right. Next, by, nope, 421004 capital equipment. $5,000. On the books?
No, on 57A.
57A.
The 10,000 for the part-time training.
Oh, I didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't see, so.
7
Line 47.
seminars and training, $10,000.
I just wanted a little bit more context on that one, just because we had 0 actual from the prior year, why we we're budgeting 10,000.
So what he did was, he used to have one seminar and training line. He now broke it out because full-timers need certain trainings and part-timers need, so he broke it out instead of having it as one line. That's all that is. That's why it's 0 in other years. It's because he broke it out. We
So-
just
right.
broke it out instead of having it as one, we
So if
split
you
it.
look at the line above it, 24,883 was last year's budget. It got broken out to 16,000, so it's 26.
Thank you.
The capital equipment,
On the capital equipment line, again, just a little bit more context, what the 5,000 is intended towards?
capital equipment.
I think it's just additional bigger pieces of equipment in either the PD or on the vehicles or whatnot that they would need to function.
Like what?
I mean, it
So-
varies.
Such as?
It honestly varies.
You have a capital equipment line. Do you know exactly what type of items come out of that?
It's just a standalone item, in case something, a big expense comes up, that I would be able to have money for it. It's basically what it is, a standalone, like, can't even give you an example. We've always had 5,000 in there. Last year I put 4,000. I can go back to 4,000. I mean, I only used, I believe, I had 200 left, I think. So.
It says you spent $12.50 today.
$12.50 today. Okay.
$12.51 today.
Okay.
Do you happen to any idea what that was for? Like what type of piece of equipment would you buy out of that?
I think it was a year. With Block 5, we're getting through computers, but if a computer does go down, I can buy computers with it. I know I'm getting 3, but I think I have 6 in the PD. So if one does go down, or we have faulty equipment, just in general. I mean,
So it's for if something breaks that you haven't budgeted for a new one for the year, that you use it for as a replacement fund, that it would be an item over like the 1,000 or the 3,000 threshold in the budget that would cause capital.
So maybe you could help me understand then, in 2022, we used $37,000 on this line. Does anyone know what that was for?
which, 37?
Yeah, 37,206. I know.
Yeah, I'm
Administration, I don't know what that
Sorry.
Probably, but I mean, there's a perfect example. He had 37,000. I wasn't aware of that. I didn't look at that. But generally, it's been 5,000.
Let's see. Generally, it's been about 5,000. It may have been that there was a plan in 2022 to use it for something bigger than normal to purchase, and then it went back down to 4,000 last year, and it's an increase to 5,000.
But we don't have specific examples.
There was one year, they had to buy a cruiser or something, the price was right if you bought it now.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it was gonna go up, and so
I remember
there
that.
was something to do with that, and you had to do something.
Yeah, it was like a
He bought
discounted
two, he
cruiser.
bought one at the end. He kited between years.
Yeah,
That's what he did.
basically.
He ended up buying 2. I remember that.
Was it the new training room or the?
No, the training room just cost an extra.
Oh, okay.
No, that was all still.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So
Which is a big item budgets. I mean, I can't even.
And back then, there wasn't that much money in the detail fund to that extent.
yes.
Yeah.
So we had to do something done to make that all work, but cheap.
I don't
He
either.
would
We
basically
never
buy
discussed
2
that.
cruises at the same time on paper, but he paid for them out of 2 separate years.
Okay.
And the town would get a discount by doing that.
Yeah. So, all right, Kim, so I think, no, I just want to bring it back to the original question. So the capital equipment fund, let me make sure I understand it, is for equipment that isn't budgeted, that would fail, that you would replace.
Correct.
That is what that fund is for. Does that satisfy your question, or?
Yes, sort of, okay.
Oh,
I'll let it
I'm
go.
just-
No,
No,
I'm
I'm
done.
just asking, I want to make sure. Okay, thank you.
Actually, Joel, before I sit down, just one further question. Line 4210-01, do you mind highlighting it, Stacy?
Which one?
4210-01, it's seminars and training.
Seminars and training, yep.
It's down towards the bottom. Is that a carryover? Because I thought we've got the discrete line item.
Can we make sure we go in order, please? From the buys, we have another buy to discuss.
Oh, sure.
Okay, thank you. I will highlight that and then we'll. Okay, so the next buy is, all right, you're okay? You don't want to adjust? Okay, I'm just making, you're welcome. The next buy was on the computer line for $11,864.
Yet again, me. So obviously, I understand by the note that 3,100 of this is replacement related, so what would the balance of it be? It's,
So 8,000, I don't remember the exact, it's 8,000 something, was what was suggested last year from Block 5 to fix, it's the server or the switch, I don't understand that stuff.
It's a server switch that connects.
And we didn't do it because we didn't have the funds, and so that is what, it makes the remainder of that.
So it's for a computer replacement and for a server switch replacement that is recommended to ensure.
That is needed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And part of that is how they.
I forgot to
that
take it
server
out
and
of the
that-
description in the executive line.
That server and that switch is how they connect to the county for mobile data terminals and all the records management stuff that comes through IMC.
And I forgot to take it out of the description on the executive line. It was originally
That's
in
where I
there.
was just going next.
And then I broke out that, and I forgot to take that one number. The number's not in the budget, it's just in the description.
so Block 5 is broken up by department, it's not all in the executive budget?
Correct.
Okay.
No, computer replacements from Block 5 are in the separate budgets, but the maintenance and our licenses and whatnot are under the executive line for all departments. But I broke out phones and I broke out, like if they needed equipment.
So individual equipment usage are in the department budget, and then the contract for overall services, issues, viruses, anything like that are in the executive budget.
Thank you.
Are you,
No motion.
okay? I added that note to the budget that it's a server switch replacement. All right, and then 421001 seminar and trainings, number is 5,625.
Yeah, my question on that one, I just wanted to confirm from like a data integrity perspective that that wasn't a carryover from the prior budget. We do have line items 421007 and 421007 alpha for salaries part-time and full-time seminars and training. And then there's that line item 4210-001, which is also seminars and training. It could be something like a specifically allocated training.
Yeah, salaries are if it's not part of their scheduled shift and they engage in overtime to attend the training, or the chief has to cover for backfill for overtime to go to training. The actual seminars and training is the cost for the physical classes. And for people that aren't aware, when the Law Enforcement Accountability Commission for the state of New Hampshire went in, they've increased the mandatory hours of new training for officers incrementally over the past few years. So it's actually going to a point where it's tripled in the mandatory new hours of training over a 4-year period.
That's right, maybe change the description then in that case to make it more.
Well, I'm gonna add a note to the note that is gonna say it's payment for the class or a seminar, not for salary.
So what Chief did was he was trying to be transparent, and we broke out all of his payroll line items. And that's why there's so many payroll line items. We could have just had it as salaries, full-time, overtime, and part-time, and then seminars and training.
Yep.
But we broke it out so that it was transparent as to what he was spending the salary lines for, and that's just what they're called. Like, it's for training, the payroll, and then you have to pay for the expense for them to get training.
I think if we add the notes and then we just make sure that when we're in the salary section, that we understand that that's the salary section. Does that everyone agree that adding the notes clarifies it? Nick, are you okay with that? Okay, all right. All right, so we are going to take a vote for the total, or look at the new total for the police department. 4210 is $1,075,856.54. Second. All those in favor? Okay. Hold on. Can you just raise them again? All those in favor? Just one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. All those opposed? Abstain? Budget passes. Select board?
Yeah, we would take a motion to recommend the police department proposed amount of $1,075,856.54. Ellie? Second. Lori? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So the police department budget with the amended budget passes. Fire, next item, 4220, fire department. Salaries full-time, $538,387.07. Salaries overtime, $70,000. Salaries secretary EMT, $71,000. Salaries per diem, $170,000. Salaries call personnel, $55,000. Salaries COLA, $6,500. The salaries COLA is for anyone who is not getting an adjustment for in the pay matrix. There is a few individuals. The fire.
The fire chief has a contractually obligated.
Same thing. Yeah, and there's a few others that are not getting an adjustment into the pay matrix where they. Ambulance supplies, $6,500. Capital equipment, $1,000. Computer upgrade, $4,000. ComStar fees, $12,000. Dry hydrant, $1,000. Dues, $6,200. Electric, $20,000. Equipment repairs, $600. Equipment, $6,000, sorry. Equipment upgrade, 600. Oh, 6,000. Yep, sorry. It's a lot of numbers. Fire prevention, 500. Grant, 2,000. Hazardous material, 500. Heat, 17,680. Hose replacement, 1,000. Mileage and meals, 500. Oxygen, 500. Protective clothing, 10,000. Radio maintenance, 2,000. Radio replacement, 7,000. Rolling equipment, 27,500. SCBA, 5,000. Seminars and training, 5,000. Supplies, 2,200. Telephone and internet, 9,800. Uniforms, 6,500. Total for the fire department is $1,071,267.07.
Move for approval.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained. Select board?
All right, we would take a motion to recommend the fire department proposed number of $1,071,267.07. Glenn? Lori? All those in favor? Aye.
Item number 4240, town inspectors. Salaries full-time, 85,000. Salaries part-time, 27,000. Salaries COLA, 0. Books, $1. Dues, 200. Environmental inspector, $1. Forms and envelopes, 0. Mileage and meals, 3,000. Seminars and training, $1. Supplies, $1. Telephone, 2,200. A total for town inspectors, 117,404. What line?
S2. The town approved, and it was a warrant article for 62,400. And then in 2023, it went up to 104, and now it's down to 85. Can that be explained to everyone?
I'll explain. It was at the time, after the Warren article had passed, a period of time passed where the boards, previous boards, and then had attempted to hire the full-time code enforcement officer and building inspector. They had a couple ones that did not last very long till they got to the point where they felt in order to fill that position, and with all the increases that were happening since the Warren article would passed in pays and salaries, the boards then put it to a higher amount salary. This board did not feel moving forward that we did not like the amount that was being paid, so we came up that we're currently attempting to hire for that position, and the top of that pay scale is 85,000. But if you actually just looked at the labor market since that Warren article was passed, if that position was immediately filled and it encompassed the pay raises and cost of living increases, if it was immediately filled after it was first passed, it would probably be up near that $85,000 number at this point.
Because that Warren article, whatever, that was only for 9 months.
Correct.
So 12 months is at the 85.
Okay.
Are you okay with that? Okay. Is there I'll take a motion. Town inspectors. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great.
Okay, the select board would take a motion to recommend the town inspector's line item total of $117,404. Ellie, second. Glenn? All those in favor? Aye. Aye.
Emergency management, 4290. Salaries, 3,000. COVID grant expense, 0. Stipend expense, 0. FEMA expense, 0. Field equipment, 500. Grants, $1. Homeland Security drill, $1. RERP allocations, 25,000.
Aye.
Seminars and training, 750. Supplies, 500. Telephone, 500. There's a buy at item number 4290-03 RERP allocations.
So first, could you remind me what RERP stands for?
So, RERP is radiological, I'm not even sure. But, so basically how this line, it happens is we level fund it every year. Every 2 years of this, Hampshire Homeland Security, because we're in the 10-mile emergency protection zone with Seabrook Station, if there were to be an event there, every 2 years to meet FEMA and standards of the state of New Hampshire, we have to participate in 3 drills per year. That's 2 practices and 1 graded. So the graded exercise, FEMA and state officials come down to Kingston Fire Station in every town in that 10-mile radius. So Brentwood, East Kingston, Exeter, Seabrook, Rockingham County participates. So, but whatever we pay out at the Seabrook rate, we get reimbursed from the state of New Hampshire for that. So money goes out, but money also comes back into the general fund.
Okay.
So the reason it's budgeted that much is you never know the size of the scale of the event that they're going to require for the training. So sometimes it can be very costly, and I believe it's radiological emergency response planning.
Yes. I would have. That was my third guess, but yes.
I could have Googled it. Question though, as we've never spent even close to $25,000, what makes you think we'd reach that number?
So unfortunately, typically we don't have enough people coming in, so there's a spot, so I guess imagine if Seabrook did have an actual issue. So we have a spot for a selectman, we have a spot for fire department members, we have a spot for a health officer, Tammy's office comes over, we all have to play as it's a real event. So we don't know if we're gonna have enough people, which we typically don't, showing in the numbers, or if we're gonna have a few extra people, which typically doesn't happen, but I wanna prepare for that. Again, there's no cost to the town because it comes back as reimbursement.
So every dollar that we spend for the training gets reimbursed by FEMA.
This training cycle, I guess, we had 1 practice drill in November, but we have 1 in February, and then the graded is in April. So we actually have 2, so that's probably gonna go down, I forget what the last payroll was, like $7,000, so that would probably be close to $14,000 spent this year. But again, reimbursed by the state.
So you had 1 last year?
Correct.
So that cost you 11,000, so if we double that, that would be 22.
And then next year, in 2025, we don't have any practice drills, but it's easier just to level fund that and just return all the funds back to the town, as opposed to justifying it every year, going up 25,000 and back down and up and down.
Yeah, but this is like but that money has to come out of the homeowner.
Correct, and it goes back to the homeowner at the end of the year in the general fund.
But
Next year.
But if we don't have the expense,
If I only use $14,000 out of it,
yeah,
then everything else goes back to the taxpayer in the general fund.
it goes back to
Plus-
it goes back to the selectmen. Is where it goes.
Right, in theory, it could be
Let me
reallocated.
be intellectually honest and fair. The selectmen have been very good about returning the bulk of that money to the taxpayer, but it's important that we keep in mind and are precise about what's going on here. This money that we're appropriating that comes back to us, remember, the homeowner has to let that money go, has to pay that money over.
So in other words, it accumulates over time.
Yeah, well, no.
It's
I've been on the select board for 4 years, and every year we return money to the taxpayers, every year. You use that money that's left to reduce the amount to be raised by taxation. And if you don't think we agonize with how much more we would like to have to do that, we do agonize over that.
And I believe since I've been chief, I've never used this line for anything but those drills.
Is it fair to say, though, that if you don't use it and it goes back to the general fund, it's not guaranteed to be returned to the taxpayers? It could be used for other purposes if needed? Okay.
We're not denying.
Okay. I would make a motion to lower this line to $15,000.
I'll second.
Further discussion. I would just like to add something. You had one last year?
Correct.
So the one last year cost $11,000. He has one scheduled for February and one scheduled for April, which if you add those two, that's $22,000.
I remove my motion.
Thank you. If we don't participate in these drills or we can't meet the FEMA's expectation, then that affects every federal grant available to Kingston.
Yep.
So,
I wanted just to clarify that, okay.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, so are we good with this number? All right.
thank you.
All right. So emergency management, $30,252.
Motion to approve.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Select board.
Okay, the select board would need a motion to recommend the emergency management proposed total of $30,252. All those in favor?
From a budget mechanics perspective, would the COVID-19 line items, would those be coming out since they're $0?
They will, but we look back at 5 years. So because they'll eventually fall off.
Okay.
Yep.
And I just wanted to make a response to what John Margaret said, and he's absolutely right that the money ultimately does come to under the control of the select board, and that's why it's been important that the select board has had genuine, involved conversations with the budget committee, because there's a level of trust. Ultimately, the budget committee in the town appropriates a total number. And yes, the select board could manipulate and move that money around, but the trust is that we're all involved and we want it to be getting spent where we said it would get spent and where we advocated and agreed for. Now, there are emergencies that come up and things need to get moved around, but that's that level of trust that you want to make sure that we're doing what you expect us to do, and if you end up with a select board that's taking money inappropriately from places and expending in other places where it shouldn't, and they can't justify some type of emergent need, that's when you vote the people out of these seats and get people that you can trust to do what you expect. But Mr. Pramberg is correct. There is a level of trust that has to happen, because ultimately the total amount of the funds to be expended by the select board, through the various departments is what happens.
All right, moving on. Item number 4312, Highway Department. Salary, DPW Director, $117,700. Salaries full-time, $398,653. Salaries overtime, $71,000. Salaries part-time, $26,000. Salaries COLA, $18,459. Barricades and guardrails, $3,000. Clothing allowance, $2,400. Cold patch, $6,000. Culvert catch basin, $7,000. Dues, $130. Dumpsters rentals, $4,000. Electricity, $6,000. Equipment rental or lease, $4,000. Equipment repairs, $45,000. Gravel and stone, $10,000. Hardware, $4,500. Heat, $9,000. Hot mix, $210,000. Lumber, $1,000. Match and grant, $1. Mileage and meals, $750. Office equipment, $3,000. Office supplies, $1,000. Oil and grease, $3,000. Pavement maintenance, $36,000. Plow blades, $5,000. Radio maintenance, $600. Radio replacement, $1. Road rebuilding, $82,000. Safety equipment, $3,500. Salt, $108,000. Road treatment, $6,000. Seminar, bye. Seminars and training, $2,500. Signs and barricades, $3,500. Snow plowing, $120,000. Stormwater maintenance, $28,000. Telephone and internet, $7,000. $4.37. Tools, $6,500. Tree removal, $5,000. First buy is at Salt for $108,000.
Okay, so my question, I'm guessing the cost of things have gone up. That seems to be the norm for everything these days, but if actual for prior year, it says in the comments that it's 63,000, 108,000 is a pretty substantial jump. So if I could understand that a little bit more. I know it was the budget prior year, but we didn't exhaust that either, so.
Director Coombs, can you answer that, please?
So, just for recent history, in 2019, we spent $85,000 on salt, but salt was $46 a ton. We're currently contracted at $71 a ton. 2017, we we spent $93,775, and that was at $53 a ton. So if we took today's rates with those 2 years as examples, those were heavy snow years, we would be at $129,000 and $128,000 respectively.
And I'm sorry, could you repeat the years again?
2019 and 2017.
So last year was a really mild winter.
Correct.
Is what's dangerous about analyzing.
And what was the price tonnage last year?
Last year was $71 a ton.
And this year?
Is 72. So I'm sorry, 71 this year, and it was 72 last year, so it did go down some.
And I'm sorry, in 2019, you said it was 71, and what was spent?
In 2019, our rate that we were contracted was $46.75 a ton. And in 2017, it was $53.30 a ton.
So when you calculate this, you use your worst year in the last 5 years and average it out per your current ton?
What we're currently paying per ton with the amount of salt that we purchased in those 2 years, it would be, so in 2019, it would be $129,112, and this year would be, or in 2017, it would be $128,707. So we do not have any emergency fund or anything that we can pull from for salt. I mean, it's not like Massachusetts where you can run it into the red. Our budget is our budget, and that's all we've got.
It's appropriate.
So I fully understand the desire to cut this, and I certainly am hoping, crossing my fingers, that it's a mild winter and we can turn this back to the taxpayers, but unfortunately there is no safety net that we can utilize should we have a winter that we have had recently as 2019 and 2017. And
So it's forecasted for the next 24 hours more snow than we got all of last year. It's kind of amusing.
so that's what drives the salt numbers.
Are you thinking about it?
Yes.
Do you want to move on to the next one and we can come back to it?
It's probably semantic somewhat, but so road treatments is before the storm, salt is after? I just want to understand the difference between the two lines.
Road treatments, we previously had this as sand, and we're now integrating magnesium chloride. We're not really using sand, we only use sand on the dirt roads. So this line is just converting to encompass sand and magnesium chloride as we need it. Magnesium chloride is a pre-treatment that we put down on the roads to prevent buildup of ice. So it gives us basically 2 to 3 scrapings of the road where we don't have to put salt down to treat that.
Is there a reason the actual was 0 in 23? Like, is this moved from
So in
somewhere else?
2022, we purchased, I believe it was 9,000 gallons of the liquid magnesium chloride, and there were 2 storms last year where we're actually, there's a temperature restriction. Above 28 degrees, it can kind of just be sticky and slimy on the road, and you're just wasting it. Below, this is really meant for colder temperatures. Salt is only effective to about 15 degrees, and below that, it really doesn't do much. So the magnesium chloride is something we can add to the salt to treat it, so that it is effective down to 5 degrees. So it just gives us more tools in the toolbox to fight ice.
So the 9,300 you spent in 22, bought it in bulk, you were able to use that in 23?
And that also covered the equipment that that included from that manufacturer, the tank, the motor for the spreading, and the spreader bar, all of it included. It was free with the liquid, so all of it together. So technically the liquid would be cheaper this time around, so that's why we kept it at 6,000.
Thank you.
And usage is temperature dependent and depending on what we get for storms.
Correct, and if it's going to transition to rain later on, we probably would not use that. Again, it's mostly for colder temperatures where salt would not be as effective.
This is probably a stupid question on my part, but if we procure $66,000 worth of salt, do we use $66,000 worth of salt, or would there be any residual that would offset the following year?
Yeah, so we have a salt barn that we store as much as we can. Roughly, we can store about 200 to 220 tons in the salt barn. So that's where we store it. And then when the guys are done at the end of the day, if they have some still left in their truck, we put it back in the salt barn and we keep it it doesn't go
It
bad.
doesn't have like a shelf life.
Nope.
So we
I
can,
mean, except the stuff that gets rained on in the front,
oh, right.
or where the pigeons are poking holes through the roof, but other than that, that's next year, I'm asking you for that, but not this year.
Thanks.
Do you want me to move on to your third one? Snow plowing.
Actually, I don't have questions on it, that one I can.
Can I just speak to that?
You can speak to it if you
So
like.
if you have watched the news over the past week, you can, everybody's blaring about how there's snowplow driver shortages. I know Massachusetts is about 1,200 drivers short for their state jobs, and in New Hampshire, I believe I've heard between 400 and 600 drivers short. What we have done is with our snowplow drivers, because of the cost of maintaining their equipment, they bring their trucks, the insurance, the liability of being on the road with their insurance. On average, this is about $5,000 to $6,000 that they're putting down to be on standby for us. And as we're having these milder winters, that's a huge cost for them to lay out, and they're not getting that money back. So what we have instituted is a 10-hour minimum that they will get paid, and this basically ensures that they'll at least cover their costs for having their vehicles ready to respond to a storm. And that's paid at the end of each month from November through March, and it's their hourly rate at 10 hours. So it keeps them in the game and allows us to retain these plow drivers so they're not just saying this isn't worth it anymore.
What is that hourly rate?
It depends on the vehicle that they're bringing. It ranges from $75 an hour to $115 an hour.
And how many people are we committing to the guaranteed 10-hour minimum?
5, I believe.
These all Kingston residents.
Yeah, no. One former Kingston resident, he lives in Sandown now.
4 of them are,
Yes,
and one's a former resident that you know.
yes. And that's the other side of it is, these are people who aren't gonna take out mailboxes or kids or other cars and things like that. So the inherent unforeseen cost of having someone cheaper or new is part of that.
Yep. I'm gonna go back to salt. Do you have,
No, I'm not gonna make a motion.
okay, so we're good? I'm just asking. Right. Total for 4312 Highway Department, $1,365,139.96. All those in favor? Opposed? Select Board.
All right, we would need a motion to recommend the Highway Department $1,365,139.96.
So moved.
Glenn?
Second.
Lori? All those in favor? Aye.
Street lighting, total, number 4316, item for $25,000.
Motion to approve.
All those in favor? Opposed?
All right, Select Board, motion to recommend street lining. Lori? All those in favor? Aye.
Item number 4319, other highway, streets, and bridges. Class 6 road maintenance, $3,000. Highway block grant, $170,598.63. Bridge grant, 0. Total, $173,598.63. Move. Rick moves. All those in favor? Opposed? Recommendation?
Select Board, we take a recommendation to the other highways, streets, and bridges, proposed amount of $173,598.63.
Glenn? Ellie? All in favor? Aye.
Item number 4323, sanitation. Bulky goods pickup, $4,000. Residential trash collection, $295,718.40. Recycle collection, $160,380. Residential trash disposal, $172,395. Recycle disposal, $141,203.60. Hazardous waste removal, $1,000. Solid waste penalties and surcharges, $9,000. Hazardous waste collection, $18,000. Total for sanitation, $801,697.
I just have a question on the bulky goods pickup. Is there proposed as a pickup of goods for people? I mean, I don't know the town is picking up people's old refrigerators or storage.
This is more of the illegal bulky goods that we have to pick up. When someone decides they want to leave a boat on the side of the road or an armchair, we are not allowed to throw those things out in the dumpster, no matter how hard we cut them down, and they are really starting to crack down on us on that. So it happens quite a bit. I've been working with the PD as much as we can to go after the people who are dumping them, and we've been pretty effective on that, but it's still happening, and one of the kind of unintended consequences of having the toters is people can't just empty their garage out on the end of their driveway and Waste Management will take it all. So this is to take care of those items that are left out there.
Move. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? All right.
Okay, Select Board, we take a motion to recommend the sanitation, $101,697.
Glenn? All in favor?
Aye.
We can take a 5-minute break. Yep, we're going to take a 5-minute break.
For some reason.
Chuck was usually in charge of bringing Max to the jail.
I thought about that, and I'm like, no, he's ignoring.
It wasn't in the budget.
That's a good answer. Good answer.
That wouldn't be bad.
Oh my God.
Start of the day, but.
All right. You got a few more groups to go through. Item number 4411, Health Department. Salaries part-time, 11,000. COLA, 330. Books, $1. Dues, $100. Mileage and meals, 400. Mosquito and pest control, 34,000. Seminars and training, $1. Supplies, $1. Water analysis, 500. Water bottle delivery to PFAS residents, 2,000. A total of $48,333. All those in favor? Opposed? Select Board?
All right, take a motion to recommend by the Select Board for the Health Department proposal of $48,333.
So moved.
Ellie?
Second.
Lori? All those in favor? Aye.
Animal control. Salaries part-time, $19,281.80. Salaries COLA, $578.45. Field equipment, $350. Heat, $250. Mileage and meals, $700. Pet food, $100. Shelter license, $1. Supplies, $100. Telephone, $350. Uniforms, $100. Veterinary, $300. A total of $22,111.25.
Motion to approve.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Select Board?
Take a motion to recommend from the Select Board for the Human Services Department $15.06.
So moved.
Glenn?
Second.
Lori? All those in favor? Aye.
Human Services Department.
Yeah, we read the wrong one.
What did I? 22,100?
Chris read the human services.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, we did it.
Oh, sorry, I jumped ahead. Glenn? Ellie? All those in favor? Aye.
And we already approved the next one, so we're good now.
You only approved the salary, though. All right, Human Services Department, number 4441. Salaries, part-time, $23,795.20. Salaries, COLA, $713.86. Boxes, 100. Dues, 85. Mileage and meals, 240. Seminars and training, 80. Total for Human Services Department, $25,014.06.
It just is amazing that our human services amount of the part-time salary is like 24,000, and at the animal control office is almost 20. I mean, it's amazing that it could take that much time for animal control, because I know it's taken a lot of time for the human services part of it, but I mean, it's what the budget is, and I'm supporting that, obviously, but and that's my liaison, but it's just remarkable that there's such a comparison between the animal control end of it and human services, so hopefully everybody support that.
Is there, make a motion, is there a second? All those in favor? Opposed?
I'll take a motion to recommend it again. And 6 cents.
Sure, I like doing it again.
I'll repeat the motion.
Okay.
And I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
General assistance, item number 4442. Electrical, 5,000. Gasoline, 500. Heat, 4,000. Medical, 2,500. Mortgage, 6,000. Rent, 21,000. Telephone, 250. Total for general assistance, $39,250. Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed?
All right, select board looking for a motion to recommend general assistance amount of $39,200. All those in favor? Aye. Aye.
Social service agencies. Item number 4445, American Red Cross, 500. CASA, 500. Haven, 833. NHSPCA, 750. Friends Retired Senior Volunteers, 225. Rockingham Action Southern New Hampshire Services, 6,600. Rockingham Nutrition Meal on Wheels, 4,600. SoRock, 6,333. There's nothing in it. Vic Gary Center, 4,850. Waypoint, 4,000. A total of 29,191. 29,191.
So, sorry, just to confirm, the blank line items, those are correct?
Those are correct. They were no longer giving money to those groups.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Motion, is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Opposed? In favor? Okay, I'm just making sure.
All right, take a select board motion to recommend the $91.
So, Glenn?
Second.
Kelly, all those in favor? Aye.
Right. Right. Item number 4520, Parks and Recreation. Salaries coordinator, part-time, $19,474. Salaries, part-time COLA, $5,084.19. $584.19. Christmas, $700. Computer, $1. Police details, 2,612. Dues, 75. Easter, 500. Equipment supplies, 0. Fireworks, 0. Halloween, 600. Kingston Days Entertainment, 0. Mileage and meals, 50. Movie night, 0. Seminars and training, 100. Senior events, 0. Senior event bus, 3,000. Senior lunch program, 4,000. Summer field trips, 0. Summer field trip bus, 0. Telephone internet, 2,900. Vacation activities, $1. For a total of $34,597.19. Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed?
Okay, looking for a select board motion to recommend the Parks and Recreation proposed amount of $34,597.19.
So moved.
Ellie? All those in favor? Aye.
I just noticed what on the detail, can you just, it was my finger hitting the PD, and I wrote PD and police, but it should be FD and police.
FD and
I
police.
just, I put my finger hit the P.
Okay. All right. Item number 4550, library. Salaries, full-time, $176,463. Salaries, part-time, $85,783. Pay per performance, $1. Disability insurance, $1,400. FICA, $19,595.86. Health and dental. Nope. I think yours is. All right, we'll look at it after. Okay. Anyone else have a different number? All right. Health and dental insurance, $73,944. Retirement, $23,900. Telephone, $1,273.92. Transfer account, $97,680. Total for the library, $480,040.78.
I'd like to put a buy on the transfer account. I think this budget is understated based on the past 4 years of actuals for the transfer account relative to the budget. We've overrun by about $300,000 on average each year. There might be a reason for that, but-
Yep.
May I ask for clarification on what the transfer account is?
Yep.
Library, and it's echoing back. I mean, it hasn't been overrun. The money comes to the library, and then we pay the town back. And by January, all the money hasn't been paid back yet because we don't have the final bills from the town. So
okay, so that overrun's not real.
Correct.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Is there a better way to show that in the budget?
You have to separate the income and the expenses, so I can't have it net. Does that make sense?
So does it show as a revenue in the revenue stream?
No, some of the reimbursements are up in the balance sheet. It's like a in and out type thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I think it would be nice for the budget committee to be able to see that, even though it looks like an overrun, we are within budget or we're not within budget, so that we can tell where we are.
I can work on something.
Thank you.
in the past few years. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't say bye, but I had a question on the health and dental. I know the rates have gone up considerably, but I'm just trying to understand the actual versus the proposed.
So it's on the health and dental insurance. So the actual says 25,839. Is that because we haven't gotten our final? Or do you pay quarterly or monthly?
And also the budget, we have to budget for, we can't budget for what people are taking. We have to budget for what they could take, because we never know if somebody's gonna leave and then somebody else comes in and has a higher program.
Right.
Or the family situation.
That's what
Yeah,
I mean.
Right.
yeah, they could have a qualifying event mid-year that allows them to up their
So
coverage.
on the health insurance, the actuals will never be 100% of the proposed.
Unless
Which
every
is
single
another
one.
reason why these figures on gross in the transfer account don't make sense. You need to take a separate piece of paper and look at it all together.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is this health insurance.
So that number represents if every employee took the most expensive of both health and dental.
Exactly.
Every eligible employee, yeah.
Right, because you would have to budget for that in case somebody decided to do that. For a municipal budget, you would require.
Eligibility requirements change depending on the part-time, full-time, obviously.
Are you okay with that? Okay. And then so there is a total of $480,040.78.
So moved.
Well, thank you. Second? All those approved? Opposed?
Present.
Opposed?
No, I'm not opposed. I'm a member of the board. so
Oh,
I've gotta-
okay. Oh, wait.
I have to abstain.
Abstain. Okay, sorry. All right. Just making sure.
Okay, I'll take a selectman's motion to recommend the library proposed amount of $480,040.78. Lori, second. All those in favor? Aye.
All right. Item number 4583, total patriotic purposes, $500. Motion? Motion, second? Second? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Blackboard?
All right, I'll take a motion to recommend the total patriotic. Ellen, second. Glenn, all those in favor? Aye.
Item number 4589, museum. Archival office and supplies, $1,800. Sorry, archival consultant, $4,115. Computer and equipment supplies, $1,410. Computer support, $0. Dues, fees, and programs, $375. Mileage and meals, $34. Seminars and training, $140. A total budget of $7,874.
Move approval.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Good.
All right, select board will take a motion to recommend the museum proposed amount of $7,874.
So moved.
Glenn? Lori? All those in favor? Aye.
Item number 4590, Heritage, salaries, 1,000, salaries COLA, 30, dues, 100, forms and envelopes, 30, matching grants, $1, postage, 200, publications, 150, seminars and training, 100, supplies, 1,000, town brochure, $1, transfer to the Heritage Fund, 100. A total for Heritage Committee of $2,712. All those in favor? Opposed?
Yeah, select board would take a motion to recommend the Heritage line item proposed amount of $2,712. Second, Glenn. All those in favor? Aye.
Item number 4619, conservation. Boat launch attendant, 2,500. Dues, 660. Lake water testing, 2,000. Mileage and meals, 300. Milfoil testing and treatment, 20,000.
Bye.
Professional services, 600. Public education, 500. Seminars and training, 600. Supplies, 500. Trail maintenance, 300. 3,000, sorry. Sorry. Whew. Transfer, 0 for a total, oh wait, we're going to the buy, sorry.
The buy is honestly more of a question. Shaw sent me information, Paula, that the quotes he got were actually 28,000. So I know 20,000 is here. He's going to take 8 out of the reserve, but to get the state reimbursement, do we need it in this line instead?
I didn't see any of that.
Yeah, the quotes came in 8,000 higher than originally planned, so it's 28,000.
So I wasn't told, I didn't know, so I.
No, you shouldn't need to appropriate that into this line, even to out of the reserve, as long as you can show that you expended the funds to get the match back, you should be all set.
Okay,
I
fine.
think that's right.
And
just
they
wanna
have
know
a
you spent
separate
the money.
account too.
Okay, yeah, perfect, then we leave it as is. Thank you.
No further discussion? Motion to approve the 30,660. Second? All those in favor? Opposed?
Okay, take a select board recommendation of the conservation proposed amount of $30,660.
So
Glenn?
Second.
Lori? All those in favor? Aye.
All right. All right, so. We don't vote on the bonds, correct? That's just payment. So,
Well, you do want to,
We wanna
you do
vote.
want to vote
Okay.
on them because the proposed is a different amount than
Than the
than
bond.
I think the
Okay.
default would be, so.
all right, so item number 4711, long-term bonds and note principals. Total, 135,000. Is there I can do them together. Long-term, item number 4721, long-term bonds and notes and interest, 79,140. Total, on long-term bonds, $214,140. Motion? Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Select board?
Okay, take a motion from the select board to approve the long-term bonds and notes interest lines for $140. All those in favor? Aye.
So this is the new proposed budget for the 2024 operating budget is $9,590,001.12. Is there a motion for approval? Is there a second? All in favor? Opposed? Select board.
Take a motion to recommend revised $9,590,001.12. Glenn? All those in favor? Aye.
We will open it to public comment for operating budget.
Or the planning board. I know you've done the planning board budget, and I'm not here to ask you to change it. But I am here to give you some further information that has come forward as of yesterday that I thought might be of interest to you. You had decided to take $2,500 out of the engineering consultant budget and $2,500 under contracted services. You may be aware that New Hampshire has a very extreme housing problem right now. The Speaker of the House of the state of New Hampshire set up a special committee, a select committee on housing, which is about to become a permanent committee for the House of Representatives because of the importance of housing in New Hampshire. That committee came forward with a number of bills this year. Some of those bills may pass, some of those bills may not pass, some may look entirely different when they do pass because we're going through the sausage-making process in Concord. Yesterday, I sat for 4 hours at a committee that reviewed over 120 different bills affecting property. Some of those bills came forward with some concerns. Some of those bills, if passed, would require the town of Kingston to get contracted services and engineering services that we've not had to use that category in the recent past. One, for example, we might very easily be able to absorb if it passes. That would be going from 1 accessory dwelling unit per property to 2. And that one seems to have a lot of legs. That's something that we could probably change ourselves with our own planner, that sort of thing. Another bill that came up that appears to have legs is a bill that would now change lot sizes in the state of New Hampshire. And lot sizes would no longer be determined on acreage for planning and zoning purposes, but would be determined by septic capacity. So if something like that passes, that's what these categories are for. These categories are for giving us the money to hire consultants, engineering consultants in particular for something like that, and contracted services to help us get through it. This year, what came forward as a surprise to the planning board was the new campground and camping ordinance that was totally changed. Fortunately, we were able to use the town council to provide that language for us and to do that research for us. These other things, if they do indeed come forward, would be out of the realm of knowledge and content for something like a town council. So, and by the way, the planning, and the campground one is very, very important for us because that will help that will determine that campground attendants are not town residents and therefore not eligible for town welfare. But these other ordinances bills could pass. If they do pass, this year is a particular year where there are very important bills before the House and before the Senate that look like they could involve a lot of implementation by the town should they pass. Just want to make you aware of that. And it was for knowledge only and for nothing else, but if you do see us going over budget in those areas, that will be why.
I have a question. What's driving the housing shortage in New Hampshire? Are New Hampshire residents having more children, or are these people coming in from out of state?
It's New Hampshire residents. New Hampshire residents alone, people living in New Hampshire right now, there is a 30,000 unit housing shortage. It's driven from the fact that from the early 2000s on, when Dodd-Frank passed and all of those, the banks had to increase their assets, so they no longer lent money to developers, and they couldn't get money to provide housing, and therefore little housing was built at that time, plus it was an unemployment situation, so people couldn't afford housing, and were living with their kids coming out of school, were living with their parents and that sort of thing. So we've had a major influx of students that have become married. It's nationwide now, first-time homeowners are almost 40 years old. It's people that have been at home with their parents or whatever that are now having children and families. The second is the baby boomers have reached the point where they're now looking for downsizing and looking for housing to supplement that. The housing shortage is not just for single-family homes and condos, it's also for apartments and homelessness and everything else. But right now in New Hampshire, for New Hampshire residents only, according to the Department of Housing Finance Authority, we're 30,000 short, and that's expected to be by the year 2030 to be 40,000 short. So the state has been talking about this for a long time. It took a long time for that to filter down and for people to really understand what's going on. It's part of the reason that housing costs are so high right now, is because there's no inventory. Inventory has gone down consistently since 2018. And in 2018, in any 1 year, there were 15,000 homes that transferred in New Hampshire. In 21, 22, that went down to 10,000. This year, we barely made 1,400 homes in any one week that were on the market.
So the overall New Hampshire human population has remained stable, but these are New Hampshire residents within the state that are moving from one type of living arrangement to another?
Yeah, and that doesn't even count the number of people flooding in from Massachusetts and New York. So if you really want to know about it, there's a series, I can give you the information. The state has had white papers on this for probably the last 20 years, saying it was coming, and then we went into crisis about 10 years ago, and it's been getting worse ever since. When we look at what's on the market, they expect this year to have a lower inventory than we've ever had since they started keeping statistics.
The other thing driving the market is that for every 100 jobs, they only have 28 applicants.
Mm-hmm.
So the labor market, the opportunities are expanding tremendously, but there's no place to bring the workers in.
Correct, which is affecting the entire economy of the state, and that's why the state is putting so much of an impetus, behind it and doing something about the housing. And in Kingston, just so that you're aware, we've had 2 design reviews come before the planning board. This planning board just so you know, the planning board dealt with 75% more hearings this year than we've had last year. And we've had 2 now presentations for design review for 2 major housing projects, one which is bringing 255 bedrooms, and another one, 80 one-bedroom units. And we have a 3rd one that's coming forward shortly. So every town needs to increase their housing, and it looks like Kingston's beginning to have something come forward to help us get there as well. And if you're concerned about the schools and the increase of school costs, just be aware, for every 4 homes sold in Rockingham County, you only receive 1 child aged 0 to 21. So it doesn't really affect the school system tremendously. So FYI, just a few facts, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Those of us that voted for the budget, select board included, I'm sure did so reluctantly because of the 20% increase, and it's just clear that eventually this is not sustainable, 20% a year, and I think we all understand that, and it is what it is, and we have these expenses we have to pay, and I think all of us that supported it are doing so with reservation, obviously, because of the ramifications for the future. I mean, at that rate, it's just not sustainable over the long term, I don't think, but anyway.
What was the vote?
The vote was 6-3 to pass the budget.
And to being said, Rick, I agree. It's nobody likes the cost of doing business, but the other thing that I've seen traditionally with the town and how it votes, I've yet to see the townspeople tell me what they can live without. They keep demanding more services, or at least maintaining the same in certain areas, and those inevitably go up with either the cost of inflation for the supplies or the cost of salaries and labor to provide those services. And I've yet to find the town to agree on anything they're willing to give up. I've brought forward items myself that I had concerns about, and I was the lone voice in the room, and I was told I was a monster for even suggesting it. So until the townspeople are willing to say they can live without something, it's going to continue to go up.
And we're still below the default budget.
We are still below the default budget.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I just want to when the voters do eventually look at the recommendations, if they just look at the recommendation and go, say, well, nobody's unanimously support, it's going to result in going to the default budget, which is going to be appropriate a higher amount than what we're proposing.
Yeah, but that's what interested me, and I appreciate getting from the finance director the detail on what the default budget would be. So my view of this and why I voted against it, this cycle is not going to stop until it stops. And the only way it's going to stop is for the default budget to pass. So while taxes will go up by a minuscule amount this year if you pass the default budget, my perception is I begin to understand how this default budget works. They'll go down the second year.
If the default budget is is voted for multiple years.
In other words,
we can generalize that, but 75% of our tax money comes from the school and the school budget. So we can't necessarily state that our budget reducing or going to default would impact our taxes unless we see the school budget.
But I've heard that for ages, and what that ultimately, and that's true, but this is what happens is there's all these separate silos. So if you keep saying, well, it's the schools, it's the schools, it's the schools, and nothing changes here, you can't look at it in a vacuum, then nothing's going to change. My guess is that if there begin to have to be dramatic changes and cuts in the general government and regular government, that's inevitably going to go over and go sideways into the schools as well. But I mean, here's one thing to consider that wouldn't affect anybody that's currently employed. We offer the best health and dental plan possible. Why can't you say that those that are here that have it now can have that, but we're going to adjust and offer something different to future employees? Maybe that will work, maybe it won't. But the other thing, as I said at the last meeting, you can't continue to offer the level and breadth and depth of services that you are now. It's just not sustainable. It's just not going to go on. So we begin to have to say, okay, there are certain things we've got to consider not doing, which is, I think, what you referred to. But it's not going to change until it changes. So we'll see what happens in March.
What? I didn't mean to open a Pandora's box.
No, I think it's, just because we support what's proposed doesn't mean we're happy about what it is. Ultimately, it's a tremendous increase.
I'd like to add a comment, is that as supervisor of the checklist, we have to be there for the school budget, and the number of residents that we check in to attend that meeting is as abysmal as we had for deliberative session last year. So if the residents and the voters don't even care enough to show up the meetings, I feel powerless. You know, I think we're supporting our town's employees and services as best as we can by voting on this budget.
And that brings us to, we do have a meeting next week to review the warrant articles, and we will review the final warrant article for the budget and the default. And we will have the availability for the public to comment on these items. But we don't have a lot of people showing up and expressing what they want, and we have openings on the budget committee, and we are more than happy to see additional people on the budget committee to help us try to figure this out. It is important that if you want to see change, that you participate. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what, exactly.
But
I also want to expand on the comment about the school portion of the tax rate. So last year it was 69.3%. Now it's 65.5. So they're going down and the town's going up. So the town went from 20.4 to 22.9. So it is important to note, yes, we're not the bulk of it, but now we're becoming more of it. So there is an offset there, and that's a concern to me, and honestly why I'm voting no on the budget. Along with the COLA, I don't feel like is looked at in totality. It's looked at a salary line item, and you have to look at it overall, how it's impacting all the benefits, including the retirement, because that's where we're going to see that the money's going to keep climbing. I'm not saying I don't support people getting increases. However, we're in the midst of this salary study. We had data presented to us that said people were in the 95 percentile, and generally in the public sector, if you hit a point, you cap and you don't get COLA. So we're continuing to give people money that are very high in the market, and I just can't personally support that. I just think the tax rate is my coworkers have stated, is not sustainable, and we just keep raising.
That voted thinks that it's sustainable. I mean, if you look at the increases this year, a majority of the increases are health insurance, and then we do have the few grants that are hundreds of thousands of dollars that will go away next year. Well, not the highway block grant, but when we take a look at this, it may be helpful to see the revenue side, and we do have the estimated revenue, and we will delve into the revenue next week and review that, make sure we have a good understanding of all the warrants expressed.
And some of the labor growth too is systemic. We're in a position where we kind of acknowledge within our own town that it's not sustainable to keep adding funds at this rate for COLA, for example, but at the same time we're losing, we're in a position where we were losing staff to other towns nearby, so we're effectively competing with the towns in our area, and until those towns acknowledge that they also spend at a rate that's not sustainable, that has a sort of an underlying current that pushes our labor budgets.
And I wholeheartedly agree. Again, I support the fire department. I support in the past what was done with the police. But when you present a team that's 95 percentile and you still increase them, I am really struggling with that decision.
Public comment? Please state your name. Yep. Yep.
I'm Leslie Hume. I just want to thank the board. First, this has been such a smooth budget process. The feedback and the communication has been great, and I know your meetings are long, and I, for one, really appreciate the depth of work you guys do. I think this group has worked really well together, and I appreciate this conversation. I'm wondering why we have capital reserve funds for our buildings, for our fire department, but we don't have one for our police department to acquire vehicles or other capital equipment that they need. Why is it in our budgets rather than in capital improvement, capital fund, reserve funds? And you know, we vote on those every year when they come up or put money in. Maybe that's a way to reduce our regular budget and have it more.
I think in particular, police department for replacing cruisers, it's something that generally they need one a year, whereas plow trucks or fire trucks are something that happens every several years. So the cost of a plow truck is exponentially more than the $100,000 that gets put to warrant to come back. You know, it's what, $500,000 for a fire truck, and right now just to even set up one of the larger plow trucks, I think the cost of I thought the last estimate we got was like $128,000 or I don't know. So it's the type of equipment they need to get for front end loaders aren't stuff that's regularly happening every year. So they just put the money in the fund to plan for the larger purchases when they need to happen. So it's essentially getting budgeted for every year. They're just putting $100,000 at a time with those warrant articles. Whereas the police department in particular, like the annual, like the life cycle of the cruisers, they're usually replacing at least one a year.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It would be substantially more than just the 100,000 we would need to put into just to replace it.
Correct.
The equipment
Yeah.
is included in that 61,000 that he has for cruiser replacement?
But that would be every year.
I guess the thing is frustrating, maybe it frustrates you as well, is seeing these little buckets that can be pulled from versus seeing what is the plan for addressing capital purchases. Whether it's a cruiser or radios or photographic, whatever he needs, a safe or evidence, whatever it is, it would just be nice to see everything pulled into one category so you know what the total is.
Yep, we agree. I think it's been a kind of a point that the budget committee has said that it's difficult to see what all the operational costs or what the expenses that could occur if there are buckets that we don't necessarily see. I understand how it works and why it's required. It's just the budget committee has per se over some of it, and the select board has say over other parts of it. That's why next week is kind of really important, because it is talking about all the warrant articles, and all of those all those budget items will be reviewed. And the budget committee does get to recommend or state anything that has to do with money added. And there is a 10% cap that is required so that the budget that we set forth cannot include with all the warrant articles or any changes throughout the deliberative session by more than 10%.
Mm-hmm.
This year would be like $900,000, so don't do that though. But it is all encompassing, and it takes multiple meetings to get there.
Okay. The other thing that I've been to selectmen meetings when POs have been approved and discussed, and I remember one in particular where Ellie said, stop doing this to us, stop taking money from this place and that place. To satisfy things, we have to have a better plan, because we just opened the budget and all of a sudden we're withdrawing from accounts that we shouldn't even be in that situation. Maybe towards the end of the year, we're trying to figure out how to pull the money, but at the beginning of the year, we should have had a plan for some of these acquisitions. And I think I see that as a taxpayer as not good planning. And you guys have done such a great job this year. The details in these line items should be very explicit of what it's going to be used for. I'll be supporting a warrant article, and I hope you do too. When we were on the Board of Trustees of the library, we passed a policy that we would always return unused salary money and benefit money to the town. We never used or redirected that money for any other purpose. It was for the employees, and if we didn't spend it, it all went back to the town every year. And I wonder if we could do that at the town level, selectmen, a warrant article or something to get a handle of moving this money around, if that would be something to consider from a budget perspective. The money was designated for personnel and not for something else. I see we have a contingency line of $50,000 in the selectmen's line, which should cover a lot of any craziness.
Every year, as I've been on 4 years now, and we pretty much take about $900,000 to come off the bond that we don't spend. Yeah. And that's a substantial amount. I hate to be limited, if I can use that word, on just on salaries, because it's not just a matter of salaries, although that's a preponderance of what we're looking at, expenditures. And you look at the $1.3 million that we're up this year, 2/3 of it is salaries, is benefits, more than salaries. Salaries are included. There, of course, there are increases in salaries, but those insurance costs are tremendous, and the ancillary retirement plans and so forth, they're very costly. But that's got to be one of the benefits of working for the town. And we have control over our money, where many states don't. But we in New Hampshire really have, our money's local. We don't have an income tax, and we don't have a sales tax. And if we want to keep it that way, then it's going to mean more out of our pockets for our local town government, which is why it's a real shame that more people don't participate in the hearings and in the discussions about the budgeting in the police department and fire. These are very dedicated employees, and I personally feel we have to support them through their pay and their retirement.
Yeah, I totally get that part. I'm just saying, if you don't hire a code enforcement officer for 6 months, his 6 months of salary and benefits, whatever that cost is, shouldn't be redirected to, buy a cruiser. I don't make it up, whatever it is.
Well, I will say there was...
I want to preserve the money for the employees.
Yeah.
I do think we need to pay competitive wages, and we're making up for, I think, what you called, Ellie, in one hearing, maybe even last year's budget committee meeting, 25 years of administrative neglect. And a big part of the suffering of that was our employees and our facilities, our buildings, our computer networks, and all of that. So you're making up to getting the town on the right track, but I think you guys all are acknowledging this 20% is not
and I will say this was a very weird year, and we elected not to fill that code enforcement position because we had $100,000 shortfall with solid waste and recycling, and I knew folks weren't going to be happy if waste management didn't come. Well, they were going to come and bill us anyway because we're locked into a contract. But I agree that I saw stuff in the past where it looked like departments past years were using vacancies to essentially account for things that should have been budgeted. And, I think we resolved a lot of that with the police department last year, and the chief had to come before the budget committee and the board to say, yeah, I have a huge increase in my operations budget, because he goes, I'm on track to be fully staffed, and he now is fully staffed. So that salary money that may have been previously moved around to accommodate for things that should have been budgeted for, like we ran into a thing where radios had never been replaced over the years. And so I do agree with you. I think we're in a much better position to look at something like that where, if there were vacancies, it may be used to offset additional overtime that's required to cover responsibilities. But I agree, we shouldn't be looking at that as an avenue for purchasing things that are not related to salary items.
Decision day number one. I'd like to ask the budget committee to stay so we can do business. It should be very quickly. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
What? Can you send this to me? No, I don't think I do that. Can you send that to me? And then just take it off there. What? Visual. All right. All right, so let's, Budget Committee meeting in session at 12:20. The only outstanding business I have for the Budget Committee is approval of the last minutes. Motion to approve. Second? No second? Where did Rick go? Second to approve the minutes? Second. All those in favor to approve the minutes of December 13th, 2023? Aye. Okay. All approve. Okay, the only other thing is a reminder that to review whether or not your date of that your position is finished is correct, that Trish sent out. If that is correct, we have multiple openings for Budget Committee. There's 4 people who are ending their position as of the 20th of March, and there are a few resignations that are pending, so we are looking for just to update that as soon as possible so we can get that to Tammy so she can try to get additional people to run for the Budget Committee in March. We have, the RSA requires us to have a minimum of 3 people on Budget Committee, and we are allowed to have up to 12. Our bylaws have 12, but that is just some of the information. So if you could make sure that that is done, so we know how many people we have to, if you are running in the next term, you need to do it, you need to sign up for that between January 24th and February 2nd is the last day to sign up for term. The bylaws actually just don't, it says 12 with a quorum of 6. They will have to be adjusted if we cannot get 12 people. We will have to mimic the state law. It is one of the things so yeah, we'll probably have to update that if we don't get 12 people on the Budget Committee. Is there any other business anyone wants to discuss?
Did Trish win the beauty contest?
No. She's on her way down there. Hopefully she doesn't get caught in the storm that's happening right now. All right, I will close the Budget Committee meeting at 12:22.